experience that was very interesting. I came out of my body and went to what I thought was the moon in terms of the moon that's very close to our physical moon. Now, it wasn't like a purely controlled experience where I just went there and I was controlling the thing. It was more that I was kind of guided, or the experience spontaneously took me to that level. But when I got there, I noticed that there were certain things that seemed different to what I would expect of the moon that's closest to us. It seemed to have a kind of smooth texture, like in that image, that was different to what I understood from what I'd seen in images of the moon. It also seemed to have a kind of ridge running through the whole, and it seemed to be darker on one side than the other side. So when I came back into my body, I thought, well, I should explore whether there is a moon that looks like that in our environment. And I found that there is. The third largest moon, Saturn, has a ridge running through the middle and a dark and light side. And this is an image of it, so the surface looks very smooth. Now, I don't know if that's provable or objective, but I always try to look and see if there's verifiable information that I can get back from the experiences like that. So, back in '99, I had probably my most challenging and personally intense experience I've ever had. I found myself on this point here on the corner of, this is Moore Street and this is Old Compton Street in Soho, central London. We were doing a small gathering. There was 5 people in the room at the time, and I was teaching the G technique, which is one of the methods I use for inducing out-of-body experiences. I was going through this process and nothing really was happening, and I thought, well, maybe it's just the wrong day, or the conditions aren't right. But then just as I started to think that, I had this intense feeling that I should just sort of go to the ground. I felt sort of uncomfortable, dizzy. So I went down onto the ground to get sort of some security, if you like, some solidity. And as I did that, I just instantly was out of my body. And I was going through a natural environment, like a sort of forest environment. But then that experience seemed to break and split, and I found myself standing on that corner, looking down the street. Now I felt very rooted to the spot. It was like I couldn't move, or maybe I could have moved, but I didn't feel like I should. I felt like I was just stuck there, and maybe the scene was quite separate in a way. Everything was kind of greyish blue. It was like I was seeing through a filter. And then just as I became aware that I was at that particular location, because I used to work in that area, so I knew the area well, I saw a restaurant that was over to the right place to go to, and realised where I was. This explosion came out from the right-hand side of the street, about 100 metres away, and then I saw a man run past me, and I got this sense of the sort of chaos that started to happen. And then I felt this huge wave of emotion just hit me. And as that emotional wave hit me, it was like I came out of the experience. And I was back in my body, but I still had this sense of oppression. It was like I couldn't really move. I was in this sort of void state, which I won't talk about. But I was in this state where I couldn't fully come back to consciousness. And then one of the other people who was there started to coax me out of this sort of trance that I was in. And as I came out of that particular experience, I described to everyone that I thought I'd seen this precognition of this event that happened basically 5 days after I had that experience, in exactly the same street, in the same location. So I think it's a very powerful experience because I had the out-of-body experience with people actually there, and also saw something that was yet to happen. Now this really challenged me. I'm sure there's some people in the audience who are thinking that's not possible, you can't see the future, that kind of thing. And that was really challenging to me, and I tried to think how in a rational way I could explain that particular experience. Now there's lots and lots of accounts of people having premonitions and seeing different things, but I was really I was quite sceptical of that kind of thing. I didn't really see how it could be possible. So I started engaging with different scientists. I had another experience as well of the 7/7 bombing, and it had the same bluish-grey quality to it. In that particular experience, I went down into the pavement, the tarmac of Moorgate Station, and went down into the middle of the track. I was floating over the middle of the track, looking at the sign that said Moorgate Station. And then I sensed that the train was up ahead of me, and I followed the train into the tunnel, and the train Liverpool Street. And I reached the end of it, and I basically stopped at the end of the train, and then that train pulled out. And then again there was an explosion, and again I experienced this emotional energy hit me, and then roll back, and I kind of came back to my body. So they're the only two precognitive experiences I've had, and I specifically knew that they were precognitive in nature. But as I said, I was very challenged by